Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Yes, you did see it right. This is year number 37. And we know we only here because of you. We got a new team now. We got a coach that knows about winning. So what I do, I bring back my players. When I come back, I introduce each and every one of them. But just think, one of them helped me start the show. And one of them been on the show with me ever since it started, but he think we talking about tiddlywinks. We'll be back in a moment. Yes, you heard me say it in the open, year 37. You know, when I got into this, I thought I was going to make a lot of money, be a star and everything. Mike lied to me then. He was my producer then. He's my producer now. He took us in here. I thought we were going to be doing something like being movie stars or something. But you know what? He did a great job for us to be here. But a job that's been done even better is for you fans to still be watching us. So what did I do for this first show? I started bringing in, I told you about Mike Baker, the producer that brought us in. And, you know, I joke about Mike a lot, but it was his idea to bring me and a gentleman named Bob Rodwell in. And here we are 37 years later. Then we said, well, we don't have just enough for the two of them because Bob left. So we said, let's go get a guy that played football that don't know anything about it. So we went out and got Rick Walker. He was good on television. So we brought him in. You know, all them years that we went to Super Bowl when Rick was with us, he thought we were playing touch football, not tackle. That's why he didn't have to block anybody. So then, you know, we said, okay, we've got Rick Walker in here, and me and him arguing all the time. So the next day we said, well, let's get a pretty face in here. Somebody know what they're doing. Little did we know basketball was the Stena Donna's game. And then she come in and talk a game, and they never played nobody. She went out and played one guy. He had a bad leg, had just got his knee replaced. She talking about she was bragging on winning. But she's here 20-some years later. So everybody looked at what I just said and said, they need somebody to pray for them. That's what we did. When I got the team chaplain from back in the time, Milton Harding. We call him Holy. He was the chaplain as well. So now you take a look, guys. Thanks for coming back. We're getting ready to kick this season off. Got a reason to be excited and a reason not to be a little apprehensive. But at the same time, when you look at the changes that's being made, the attitude in the summer that we've seen, you start with the first thing, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I know a lot of people are going to say, he's not the one, he's not the one. But look at the Jets in Miami. If he doesn't leave Miami this year, that number one that they had down there last year, he wouldn't be playing. So I'm looking at him coming here, and he may be the thing that turned this team all the way around to a championship team. What do you guys feel about that, Donna? You going to do the quarterbacks this year. And fans, we have a new segment. We're going to start talking about each segment of the team. We're going to talk the good and the bad, and we're going to grade them. Donna, you got the quarterback.
Well, Tony, right off the bat, I'm giving the quarterbacks a C+ because that's an area of this team that I'm concerned about. I know that you confident because Ryan Fitzpatrick has been in the league for 16 years. He's been with a number of teams. And even he himself said the last 2 years he's playing his best ball. Well, during the training camps and the preseason games and everything, I haven't seen the quarterback play be strong yet. So I'm concerned about that position. And then you got Taylor Heineke as the backup and then Cal Allen. Well, Heineke did some good things in that one game against Tampa Bay last year, but he struggled some this year. But his feet gives him a good chance of winning also. But Ron Rivera wanted to go with the veteran in Ryan Fitzpatrick to start the season off. But this play of this area of the team has to be able to play much better than what we've seen so far. How goes that quarterback goes this offense also. And everyone right now has confidence in Ryan because they said that this is the journeyman and, you know, he gets hot. But my thing is, wonder if he does not get hot. And again, I think that the quarterback position moving forward has to improve, and I don't have confidence right now in what I've seen so far.
Well, you know what, and Doc, I want to ask you, and you know, I spoke to you before on this subject, like Cam Newton played, you know, he played Rivera when he was young, and as you said, they won a lot of games. You don't see them trying to get him in a Washington uniform, do you?
No, I don't. I think something happened. Again, we talk about 15-1, go to a Super Bowl with you, the GM, the defensive coordinator, and McDermott's up in Buffalo. That was an awesome team, and they've all splintered. So whatever happened, they've all moved on. And I think at this point, with the young 3 quarterbacks we have, I like them all. I would have Allen playing because I think he gives my defense the best chance for us to win by not turning the ball over. So I think Cam's out at this point. And I think if I'm Cam, go to Dallas.
Woo, I like that. And now, okay, Donnie, so we go back to the quarterback and we say, okay, quarterbacks have to do this, they have to do that. But if that offensive line haven't improved, what does that mean to these quarterbacks?
Well, Tony, yet again, I'm going to give them even a C+ because I haven't seen enough of them to say that they've improved a lot more than what they did last year, but they did somewhat because they brought back Eric Flowers. He was previously here with this Washington football team, a solid player. I don't even know how they let him get away the first time. And then they've got some new players as far as Sam Cosmi. This is a guy that is a tough offensive lineman, Tony. I think this is a plus for them. I watched him in training camp go up against the defensive line and Chase Young, and they got into a little tussle, and he didn't back down. And you've seen him play well through training camp and through the preseason games. And then you've got the Deke Charles. This is a guy that got injured last year, never got on the field really much. But if he could ever stay healthy, this is going to be a guy that's going to make some noise on the offensive line. And Sheriff has to stay healthy also. So this offensive line, if they can stay healthy, they've got some depth there, some young guys that's coming up, but they've got to play well in order to get the running game going, in order to block and protect the quarterback. It has to start with the offensive line. And this is an area on this team that has been struggling for the last 5 or 6 years, the offensive line.
But you know what, G-Man, and you know yourself, and you know, you played with other quarterbacks, you went to Super Bowl with 2 different quarterbacks. Even if the quarterback plays well and the offensive line plays well, they got to have some breakout receivers. I know they got 1 or 2, but did they bring any game breakers in, G? Somebody that can help these quarterbacks be better.
Well, you know, I'm going to give the receivers an A, and that's only because T-Mac. McLaurin is a beast. I mean, he can carry the receiving almost by himself. He's that good. He's that good of a player. I see him, if he stays a Washington football team player his whole career, he ends up destroying the record books at that position. Now, the other guys they got, we don't know yet. I mean, there's really no other 1,000-yard receivers on that team. Curtis Samuel seems strong, you know, but, you know, 848 yards, it's close to that grand, but it's not to that grand. Adam Humphries, the guy who played with the Titans, you know, 228 yards, 23 catches. I mean, the numbers, we'll just have to wait and see because they're all young players still at the end of the day. DeAndre Carter, he's more of a specialist, really. I think he's more of like a return guy, but hopefully he could surprise. Like everybody wanted me to be a return guy. Look, I ended up being a pretty good receiver. Everybody thought I was just a return guy when I came to the Washington football team. But Cam Sims, I like Cam. I mean, Cam, he seemed to make big plays when he needs to. But only had 1 touchdown last year. I mean, you gotta put up the numbers. But by themselves, with T-Mac, they get an A+ for me.
All right, I like that. That tight end is an important situation. And before I know you're going to do it, Mike, but let me ask you this, Doc. You look down in Atlanta even, where they drafted the tight end number 4 in the first round, highest ever. And they feel like this guy can be so great. They even got rid of one, Julio Jones, who was a big wide receiver in Atlanta, to have him in. They feel like he's a game breaker. You do look around in the Kansas City, you look at the 49ers, you look even down in Atlanta, and it seems as though the tight ends now are becoming prevalent and they're becoming big wide receivers that not only can catch, they can run and block and do everything.
Well, I'm glad the communication is back because that pipe going in your ear from Novena, she laid it out. That's great. Novena, I appreciate that. That's an excellent question. If you look at the final 4 teams, all the final 4 teams are competent at tight end and full. If they have a full back, they can run it because Bill Belichick is the master of matchups. And all I'm trying to do is get a better athlete on a bigger guy or a guy, my guy can outrun your guy or my guy's longer than your guy covering me. So you try to eat up on linebackers and safeties. I think Washington's getting in a good position for that now. And you're right, it is a key component to winning. And you can't just live with one. You got to have two or three. And that's why Shanahan, I love watching his offense because he employs those guys. And what Gary said is on point. They have an ace now. When you got an ace, then the other guys, if they got talent, they flourish.
Sure. Yeah.
Because one-on-one for a good receiver, he's laughing. But you can't get that until you got a beast on the other side of you that drags that safety out the way. Then you go crazy.
And I tell you what, I joke a lot about Rick Walker, but when he was with us, they started that thing they called H-back. Nobody knew what that was. A kind of mix between a fullback, a tackle, and a tight end. And I tell you, those people were very important to the team. They do not have that anymore. And I'm gonna ask Mike Baker, do you see sufficient tight ends on this Washington team, whereas they can make a damage? Because if you look throughout the NFL, the teams with a good tight end are the teams that's winning.
Yeah, I think this might have been a position last year where they definitely wanted to work on it in the offseason. I think Logan Thomas surprised everybody. I mean, what can he say? I think he'll have an all-pro year this year. And the good news is they've signed him to an extension and he stays healthy. I mean, essentially, he played every game last year. The kid that they signed, a lot of people were criticizing taking a tight end, John Bates, at the 5th round pick. He's 6'6", 259, but he really impressed. And he is one of the better blocking tight ends in the draft this year. According to Pro Football Plus, he was the second best run blocker and pass blocker in the 2021 draft class. And now here's the scoop I got, Doc, on Bates. High school track star. He ran the hurdles. He never placed in high school competition statewide any less than 4th. He threw the javelin. He's got great arm length. He's got great grasp. And he was a state champion javelin thrower. He gave all that up to play football in college. So he's got these skills that most people don't know about. Sammis Reyes, Scott Pioli is, of course, in charge of the program that gets international players involved in the NFL. He said of all the guys he saw in that program, the Pathway program, that Sammis Reyes is the best he saw. And not only that, but remember what Coach Rivera said after, I believe, the second preseason game. He said he was the most physical player out on the field. So I can't wait to see how he does. And then there's this kid on the squad nobody talks about, Ricky Seals-Jones. He's a veteran, but he's 6'5", 249, and he has started only 9 games in his career, but he has 8 touchdowns. Think about that. Started 9 games, has 8 touchdowns. He has really good hands. He spent time with the Cardinals, the Browns, the Chiefs last year. And he's really good. He was really particularly good in 2018 with the Cardinals. He had 343 receiving yards. He can go deep. He had a 60-yarder when he was with Cleveland. So I think they're okay. I think they're okay. And if Reyes comes along, boy, oh boy, you got something. And Doc, I just thought that was interesting that he was a track star, John Bates, and he proved everybody wrong. The kid is so dedicated. I didn't know how you felt about him when you saw him.
Oh, I loved him because any guy that runs the hurdles, not the 110s, he went the lap on it. I mean, that alone, any athlete that participates in track in high schools is a hybrid athlete. Most guys don't run, most football players don't run track, but the ones that end up playing a long time do. No, I like him a lot. Everything you said is I'm on point about. I like all of them. Reyes is a project, but he'll block. Most guys that are basketball players or soccer, lacrosse, they'd be receivers first. This dude is a freak, blocking. And they also has a really good coach, one of the best coaches on the staff. So I'm thumbs up. I like Ricky a lot. Ricky's the best combination of everything with experience. And Thomas is a Pro Bowl guy, but I don't know what offense they're going to run. So to be a really good tight end, you have to have a run-centric coach to me. Because without a running game, you're predictable. And none of them are sprinters. So there ain't a safety in the league that couldn't cover all of them except Thomas if he's good. And in this league, they're all good. You get the exceptional ones. There's not a – Clint Didier was exceptional because he had length and he could flat out run. I don't see anything like that. What I do know, once I see what the offense is, I feel better about it. Right now, I'm pleased. I just don't know what the offense is.
And you know, it seems to be that way, Doc, with all the positions on the team, because we know what we expect, but we don't know what we are going to get. Now, this is Martin Mayhew's and them first time together, so we want to see the conglomerate of players that they brought in and how they use them with the players already here. But by not playing them in the preseason, anyone can chime in on this if you want. I think they didn't get the full opportunity to see what their whole team together was like.
I agree. I mean, anytime a rookie doesn't play in the third preseason game and Tom Brady's playing, and see, I love the Ravens approach. We all going. We go. Like Joe Gibbs never told you how long you were going to go. That's smart because you shut your engines down. Soon he tell you 1 quarter, you out. You don't even go to, you don't even have all your equipment with you. But if he tell you go till I say you go, you strap up, you lock up, you're serious about it. He denied those kids. He got that linebacker Davis. That kid is trying to process things. He needed to play, in my opinion. They'll prove me wrong if they trash the Chargers. If not, I'm right again.
The Chargers is a tough team, though. They're going to be a difficult team. They got a big physical quarterback. They got a physical offensive line with a good running back. But at the same time, their defensive line could be comparable to the line they have here.
Yeah. Can you tell me about the wall, Tony? Come on. I want to know about the wall. Tell me about the defensive line.
This is one reason, Mike, I would tell you about the wall. I wanted to see them play a little bit more because last year they had the propensity in the fourth quarter not to get the job done. And I also see them two big guys in the middle. How we've raved about them ever since they've been here. And we know that Payne is good. And we know Allen is good. And we know we bought in maybe one of the best tight defensive ends that have played the game. And Sweat really came on. So you take Young. I saw Young make a move this offseason in one game. That's all I need to see. Had everything, had his hands correct, had his feet correct, had acceleration. But the thing that he did was he moved his body and made offensive tackle get his whole body off balance. If he can do that every play, he'll be a domineering player. But now you take a look at that front four, very good, get the job done, one of the best in the league. But let's see what's behind them. They got two guys behind them, Ioannidis and Settles. Both of them can play both positions, but they're better tackles. So what you're telling me is if anything happens to any of the edge rushers, this team is in trouble. Also, conditioning is very important. It's okay if you could dominate, but if you can only dominate in 1 quarter, that's a problem. So what I'm saying is they're going to have to develop some edge rushers for that second string, and they're going to have to be in condition. So what do you look at next? Behind them, you got the linebacker. I'm not feeling these linebackers, even though they drafted these guys and they got two good ones in it, and I want to make sure I say what they right. Okay, you got one playing the mic, which is Jamin Davis, and they drafted him in the first round. You know this is important to Coach Rivera because he was a linebacker when he played a middle linebacker, and he conducted that Chicago defense to where they got to. So middle linebacker, you look at when he was in Carolina, is very important. This guy will be important, but he has to learn. The linebackers last year was the weakest part of the defense. And then they also brought in Holcomb. That's right, I'm sorry. They brought him in. They brought him in on the weak side because he's fast, he's quick, and he goes to the ball and he's strong. Two good linebackers, but what we don't know, what about those outside linebackers? What about them as a group? Will they be any good? If I gave them a grade last year, it would have been a C-. This year, I haven't seen enough. I'm worried about them because of all the defense. They are the weakest part.
I agree.
Can I talk a little bit about the secondary, Tony?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I will say this, and I really am interested in what everybody has to say when I get done. I think this is the best combination of players in the secondary that I have seen in 20 years. Now, you can rip me apart in a minute, but let me just start with William Jackson. And I know on a little chat last Friday, I heard a little bit about some of these players. I'm just going to put that out there later. We'll talk about it later. But William Jackson was one of the best cover corners in the league. And I know Washington wanted to upgrade at the cornerback position. They wanted Ronald Darby, but he wanted too much money. So they decided to go upgrade, and they got Jackson. And I mean, I really like this kid. He's good size, good speed, 6 foot, 196. And he was Cincinnati's starting right corner last year. I think that was a great upgrade for them. He's going to be a starter. The other starter will be Kendall Fuller, second year with Washington after leaving the Chiefs, but he'd been with us before. Now here's the kid that Donna really likes, Benjamin St-Juste. The Washington football team added secondary depth by selecting him. They got him in the 3rd round. He was a 74th overall pick. He's from Canada. He's a Montreal, Quebec native, and he started 14 games during his 4-year career. He split between Michigan and Minnesota, 2 really good programs. He had 62 tackles, 13 pass breakups. He was ranked, statistically speaking, the 3rd best corner in the draft. So to get him in the 3rd round, and you know who he reminds me of? Fred Smoot, an inch taller than Fred, but he reminds me the dedication, the attitude, the team spirit. He just reminds me of him. Troy Apke, you know what they did with him rather than cut him? They moved him over to cornerback. He's the fastest guy on the team, 4.3 speed, and he's starting to make a lot of progress. Now, here's the guy Milton loves, Torrey McTyer. You know probably more about him than I do. He's a 5th-year veteran. He arrived in DC earlier this year. This was quite a story. There was no fanfare when he arrived. He basically was on a reserve futures contract, and he will be until mid-January. But he actually, the practice squad with the Bengals, they let his contract expire. He was just sitting out there. So, but he does have NFL roots. He's the son of the former Browns Eagles cornerback Tim McTyer. And he really produced a lot in 3 seasons with the Dolphins and Bengals, but not as much as everybody would have liked. They lowballed him in terms of his productivity. But I mean, everybody's been raving about him, and Donna saw him a lot in camp. Finally, Darryl Roberts, he's a sleeper, 6 foot, 190, 7 years in the NFL. He played for the Jets for 4 years, then the Lions. He started 31 games, 62 solo tackles. He's a good guy, and he's a good special teams player. Real quickly, Landon Collins, he is a beast. He came back. He surprised everybody after that Achilles surgery. Cameron Curl, everybody knows about him. They're talking about him in the Buffalo nickel. Now, I do not know what that position is, so I'm going to get some coaching from you all. DeShaver Everett will be back. He also plays special teams, and everybody likes this kid called Derek Frost. I think he's going to be I think Donna, you might know, he might be on IR for 4 games. But anyways, a 5th round pick. He tested in the elite range for speed and explosiveness at the safety position in college, 6 foot, 206 pounds. And here's my real sleeper, Bobby McCain. Bobby McCain, listen to this, 7 interceptions in 87 career games. He's played free safety, strong safety, and cornerback. I love him. I love him. I love Bobby. That's all I got.
Mike, else you love, you gave a good report there, but I didn't know you were going to write out the Illity and the Odyssey up there.
You got to do it.
30 minutes.
You got to do this, buddy.
So, and now I got to take a break. So you messed up the whole segment there. I may knock you out.
Actually, you have 30. You have 30 seconds left.
Knock him out. We'll be back in a moment. All right, let's fire Rick Walker before I come back. He don't know anything. Welcome back, guys. I didn't know.
Hey, I got a clause in my contract. I get paid either way. Go ahead. Cut my stuff off right now. Novena got me a deal. Okay, so you do whatever you want.
Oh, well, you know what? You mess around gonna get Novena fired, and she's been on the job for 50 years.
Yeah, I think everybody on this panel knows that Novena, the buck stops with her.
Wait a minute.
Yeah,
she messed around and dropped her notes a few minutes ago, and I was lost. Let's talk about special teams, guys. And you know what? We have said it's three facets to a team: offense, defense, and special teams. Over the last few years, the special teams haven't been bad, but they haven't been good. They haven't been special. They just been out there. This year, Milt, you tell me, and these other guys has played more in preseason than anybody. Tell me, do we have some mad dog? Rick used to always say, if that dog won't hunt, we don't need him on special teams.
Well, Tony, we did get an upgrade in long snapper. We brought in a new player there. I think, and probably to Donna's chagrin, I had to grade this team a C-, and that's being gracious. Given the fact that you want You want field goals to be made when you're called on to kick field goals. And this was preseason. So, I mean, yeah, pressure, but really not pressure. Didn't see the consistency. We know what we're getting in Hopkins. And we went through it last year. Now, one I guess, golden point to that is he does seem to get better after a while. Whenever he gets his kinks worked out, he can get consistent. I think there's some stability that Coach Rivera wants there. But I would say this, it's interesting here at the end of camp and at the beginning of the season, they brought in Eddie Pinheiro, a kicker, and put him on the practice squad. Now, either that's a statement, or it may mean that Dustin may not be what we think he is right now. But again, I think that this team, what what you're getting in Tress, and that's going to be consistent. It's hard to mess him up. He can kick. He is truly a pro bowler from that perspective. Well, I was going to say, they kept Apke, and Coach Rivera said that had more special teams emphasis on it than corner, because I saw people blow by him at corner. I saw people blow by him at safety. I saw people blowing by him on the defensive end. I saw people blow by him in the locker room. So I just think that, they could have, they could have. So that's just my statement there. If special teams is his home, then we need to see some production there. And
Tony,
so that's my take.
I think that they blew past them in the locker room.
That is not a homer.
Wait a minute.
No homer anymore. No.
What I am saying, I think we're going to have steady special teams this year. I think they have gotten faster across the team and to speed across the team. And I think that's going to show up in special teams.
Hey, G, I got to ask you something. When they brought you here and they had Mike Nim, and you were a special guy there, you knew you could do it all. But when you said you saw Mike Nim, you knew that you had to become a better receiver, which you did. But at the same time, have you seen anybody on this team that could be a game breaker like you or Mike Nims was at that time? That's what they need on these special teams. Have you seen anybody that may have that possibility?
Again, it's so hard to see, because even special teams during preseason, they don't put out there what they're going to put out during the regular season. So, I mean, quite honestly, you should break something in preseason. You should. I mean, you should get a 15, 20-yard return, because it's preseason. They're not putting out their best thing. And if we didn't see that, then it's always questionable. But I mean, again, I'm a guy, I don't judge anything until the fourth game, because the fourth game of the season, it tells me what's going to happen for the rest of the season. It really does. Like, by the time the fourth game get here, the team has showed its true colors. You know what you have. And what's more importantly, I want to see what happens when one of your starters isn't starting.
You know what that bell went off. You talking about the fourth game. They can't afford to wait to the fourth game. If they lose these first two games, they in trouble.
We went.
You're right, Tony.
What was our record last year, Tony? And we won the division.
Don't listen to Gary Steele, Tony.
Only thing about that, G, it ain't nothing to brag about.
Tony, another area on special.
But G's never wrong. I'm just saying.
But Tony, another area on special teams, you're going to have two new return guys as far as X Mims and DeAndre Carter, two wide receivers that they put on this team. And when you look forward at this Washington football team, you've got basically the majority of rookies and third and fourth year players. So when you look at special teams as far as across the board beyond the kicker, punter, or the holder, you're going to have a lot of new faces as far as coverage on special teams this year. So we know that special teams is key. And as Milton gave them a C, special teams is important in everything. We don't know what's going on with Dustin Hopkins. He was strong at the end of last season, in the last 8 games, but they have struggled. I know he's going through some new processes of how he's kicking, holding, and all of those things. But as Milton said, they brought in a new kicker, even on the practice squad, because you don't know what you got right there, because they have struggled. But it's across the board, they're going to be new looking at special teams.
No, I agree.
Donna, know what? Are you a little bit nervous now? I mean, Hopkins is your cousin and everything. If you don't pick your game up, we don't want two Hopkins.
Absolutely not, Tony,
being put out at the same time.
Because
you have to pick up your game.
Tony, absolutely not, because in Hopkins, I trust.
Hey, Tony, let me make this little note only because I was fortunate enough to witness, even with G on some occasions. And you mentioned the name of Mike Nelms. And when you mentioned Mike, I thought about B. Mitch as well. In comparing today's punt returners, you can't duplicate what those brothers had in their heart. There's a heart element to what they put on the field. And you would have seen that in practice as well as seeing it on game day. They had to threaten. I think they threatened Mike. Doc, you can speak to this, cutting his pay if he didn't start fair catching some punts. That just wasn't in his DNA. He didn't want to. He always wanted to return kicks. And it was his heart. I mean, and both of them had that. I don't necessarily see that in today's kick returners. And I think the whole feature of punt returns, we just don't see the big ones break like we used to.
Mike Nelms was the best player on our team.
Mike Nelms was what, Don?
Mike Nelms was the best player on our team.
Yeah, that's
in
a
19 with either 80 or 81. Remember, Tony, the only guy that went to the Pro Bowl, we had one Pro Bowl player, him.
It was Mike Nelms.
Right. And right after him, the next best player was Monty Coleman.
Yeah, exactly. And if we had a really looked at this thing the right way, Mike Nelms would have been all pro safety. They couldn't, he was too valuable to play safety. Because we needed him to change to flip the field.
And he could do that.
He would have been H-back, moved him over to H-back. He was so valuable. I'll never forget this. This dude would kill you in practice because he's a fool. So he'd knock you out in practice. So you had to be locked in messing around with Nelms. And he was so valuable. He ran around Curtis. He ran around Murph. He was such a great athlete. And Joe knew. I mean, the year we won Super Bowl, the MVP of our whole team is the place kicker. I love it when everybody talks about how dominant everybody was. We had the MVP of the team with the place kicker. That tells you how many times you get stopped. We scored points. That's the whole thing. I laugh, boy. I love it. The fish always get bigger every year. We was grinding that shit out. It ain't like
you know what though, Doc? If you think about it, it was so important, special teams back then. And Coach Gibbs emphasized how important
we all played it. Everybody was on.
Yeah. Before we take this break, I'll tell y'all a little story how important it is. I was in my 14th year. I wanted to play another year. Coach Gibbs had brought me in and he said, I don't want to cut you, man. I don't want to cut you, but we're going to have to, you got to do something else. So, I said, well, give me a little time. I just had a knee injury. And he said, I'm going to give you a little time. Well, I knew when I wasn't playing special teams, I wouldn't be back when a man came out there with my uniform number on. We're going to take a break on that and think about what I said. We'll be back at the moment. If you did not understand what I was saying before we took a break, I was looking for number 78 so I could get back on the field, but I didn't play special teams. Do you know how nerving it is when you see somebody else run out with your number on and it's not you? Well, if you look around the league, Donna Hopkins, she's trying to save her job now, and her cousin's about to get cut. So she said she got a question for all of us, a hard question. Bring it on, Donna. Let's see what you got.
Well, Tony, this year we have a new segment. It's called I'm Right and You All Are Wrong. Really, all of you all are wrong, and I'm going to be right. And we've got 60 seconds to answer this. The question is, has this Washington football team improved from last year? If not, why? If yes, how?
Prematurely, and each of us all of us 60 seconds together, each one.
Each one.
Okay, if you take a look at it, we just as we have with the offense, defense, and special team, it's kind of hard to say right now. But the one thing that I can see, if we will see when they play that first game, conditioning. If they're in better condition this year, they'll be a better team. But until I see that, I'm not going to say that. I'm still waiting to see these people perform, not in the first game, not in the first quarter, but in the fourth quarter of every game.
Milton, you're on the clock.
Yeah, I would say this. I think they have improved, but probably not like we think, not because new personnel was added, but you've got some first-year players, some rookies who now should be more familiar with what's going on, with game plans and so forth. And so I think you'll see that improvement there, plus with what Tony says in terms of conditioning. But I think players are just more familiar with what they're expected to do.
Mike, you're on the clock.
Yeah, I have to tell you, this is a great question, Don, and a great segment. This team has done everything it needed to do in the offseason. These three guys, Hurley, Rivera, Mayhew sat down. They had an amazing draft. They went after their cornerbacks, their secondary. They knew they had to shore that up. They got their middle linebacker and Jamin Davis. In addition to that, they knew they had to upgrade their receivers. They went out and got Curtis Samuel. They got Humphreys who's playing in the slot. They drafted Diami Brown. My gosh, people, if you're talking about what these three guys did, it is the best thing I've seen since we've been doing this show, except back in 91. The only thing I worry about is what you said, Donna. I worry about the quarterback because, believe it or not, Washington has had 31 quarterbacks in 30 years. This is the 30-year anniversary of the 91 Super Bowl.
Hey, Mike,
They've had
you
31
ran out of
quarterbacks.
time. Gary
That's
is on the
funny.
clock.
Plus, you talking about the best you've seen. Don't you wear bifocals?
Gary, you're on the clock.
I'm on the
Hey,
clock.
it's gonna be rough this year. Everything, I'm gonna ride you like your ponies. So put your saddles on, because I'm not gonna get up off of it. Go ahead, Donna. We ain't cutting.
Gary's
yet.
on
You
the
got
clock.
something you want to say?
Gary's on the clock.
Okay. I'm going to take the fifth.
Well, Gary's time is up. Doc
You
is
don't
on
want
the
us to come
clock.
back in about 5 shows and say you said this, right?
Yeah, Donna, I like
Yeah,
what
Doc is
I
on
like-
the clock.
I like what you're saying. We have more athletes now. This is the fastest team, most athletic team I've seen in a decade. And you need more DBs and linebackers that can run. Even Shaka, the
Tony.
young kid out of
Tony.
Penn
Shaka.
State, Tony. He's big, but he's on special teams like Monty, like Charles Mann, like yours truly, like Tony McGee. We were all on teams. The bigger guys you have on teams throwing thumps downfield, you wear them receivers, them return guys out. I just like where we're at right now because of the athletes we have. And we got rid of people there were some small people go, hey, why'd they cut all these guys? Hell, they had a losing record. That's why they did. I mean, you're trying to worst, they were 7-9. And
Right.
people were kind of like, how could you cut this guy? And this guy go, y'all crazy. It's road lizards. Get rid of all these people you can't win with until you find a combination that works.
And
Hello.
I'll finish up. They've got 15 players on this team remaining since Ron Rivera came. They have gotten better as far as the speed across this team. Wide receivers, they're much faster. They've got some other improvements, I think, in some other areas. Wide receiver is one, cornerback is another one. But I still, as I said before, the question mark pertaining to the quarterback position. So that's our, you're right, I'm wrong. This week, we'll come back and see who really is right.
Oh, well, we know.
Gary
it
took the
already.
fifth.
We just
Gary
giving
took the
you
fifth.
benefit- We just giving you the benefit of a week before we tell you that you're wrong.
Never, Tony.
Well, my statement, Tony, is
You
it's
go
a
tell
difference.
all your friends, yeah, I was right on that. Wait till next week. You know what? You talking about?
We'll see.
If we look around the league, they haven't bought a game breaker in here yet, as far as I'm concerned. Everybody around the league is bringing game breakers in. When we look at the NFC East, it's going to be tough. So you know what? I got to see a marked improvement. I don't want to be guessing.
Tony, it's a difference. I say it's a difference between upgrade and improvement.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we just got to make sure that we're talking apples and apples. You can upgrade the
Right.
team, but that doesn't mean you improve, right? So we'll see.
Tony,
We'll see.
well, Tony, this just takes us into our other new segment. It's called In a Minute with Donna and Tony, and we're talking about the NFC East right now. And the thing is, the question for you and I to talk about is, who is going to be on top in the NFC East? You've got Dallas, you've got Washington, the Giants, and the Eagles. Who has improved enough starting the season? Because for me, it's no front runners right now. I don't think it's going to be a strong division still. And everybody is saying that Dallas is going to start off on top because they've got the better quarterback in Dak Prescott. But I beg the difference because this is a guy that's coming off an ankle injury. And also he was nicked up with a shoulder injury. So I think right now there's no front runners. Philadelphia, I see being at the bottom, but it's going to be a close, difficult division because they've got a tough schedule. Tony, you're in a minute with you now.
I beg to differ with you for one reason, for the simple aspect, you talking about the quarterback, that's not important. They've brought back 3 starting offensive linemen that they did not have last year that were Pro Bowlers the year before. They brought back Smith, the best offensive tackle in the game, 30 years old, been in the league since he was 19, all pro, out last year. Their center, they got a new center because they lost that. They lost an all pro guard. They got all those people back, and the running back has lost enough weight that he's the same weight he was as junior year of college when they won the national championship. Dallas is the favorite right now. I hate to say that. If you look at Philadelphia, they really got to decide on their quarterback situation, as well as they do not have a running game and their defense is suspect. If you look with the Giants, that could be the sleeper. Barkley comes back and can run the ball, and they get a few receivers to stand up. The quarterback is in his second or third year. He's starting to get good. Danger. So what I'm saying is all these teams is on good footing. So you put them on good footing and you look at who has the best offensive line, Dallas, in the minute. Bring it back. You want to have this? Come on.
Wait, Tony,
Anybody else? Hey, y'all see she doesn't have
Tony,
anything.
as I told you, there's no front runners in the NFC East right now.
What do you guys think?
I know you said as far as Philadelphia, their quarterback situation with Hurts, and then Daniel Jones hasn't proven anything in New York yet. They've gotten their Barkley back as far as the running game. And Washington, to me, is right up there, close to Dallas at the top of the line. But right now, I have no confidence right now that I can brag on anybody in the NFC East. I still think it's going to be a struggle, Tony.
Well,
Tony, I think it's some, go ahead, Todd.
Go ahead.
No, I agree. We don't know. Martin's out. He won't play Thursday. The Cowboys are always in it verbally until the game starts. I think that you don't. No, really. They have more publicity than we do. Philadelphia seems like a wreck. I still think that kid is a winner at quarterback.
Yeah.
It may be ugly. They got speed on the edges, tight end position, solid. There's just too much unknown. In this lingerie preseason that's going on now, nobody plays. You don't see anybody. I have no idea. Like that's why I'm with Gary. September tells us all. We just got to make sure you're not winless in September or your December's trashed.
Yeah.
We just got to find out. I mean, it's just a new coach in Philadelphia, a terrible coach in Dallas. New York might be the one I'd be most afraid of, simply because we didn't beat them and we got them on a short week, and we've not handled COVID as well as I'd like us to have done. So anything can happen, man. The Cowboys just find out they lose an all-pro player. You don't know what's going to happen right now in this bag of tricks.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, we got to take a quick break now, but if you take a look at it, they're not the ones to look at anyway. Last year at this time, I told you guys, I said, Tampa Bay is dangerous. I'm going to go with them. This year, I'm telling you guys, the 49ers. Now all of you look at it. We'll be back in a moment.
Gary Clark is a member of the 70th greatest Washington football team players. He was a 4-time Pro Bowl selection during his 8 years with the Washington football team. And also with the Burgundy and Gold, he won 2 Super Bowls and made the playoffs 5 times. He is in the team's Ring of Fame and still holds the team's rookie receiving record. Now Gary adds another honor to his long list, the Washington, D.C. Hall of Fame.
But, I'll say this. I watch a lot of guys play today, and they try not to be on the football field. That's the toughest dude, pound for pound, I've ever seen on the football field. We watch him come out there, barely walk throughout the week, and once the lights clicked on, it was game time, he always showed up.
He's a fierce competitor. I competed against him when I was with the Philadelphia Eagles, and we became teammates in Phoenix. But having him get inducted to the Washington Sports Hall of Fame is a tremendous honor for him.
You all were teammates with Gary. What made him so special? We joke about on Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus that Gary was always arguing and in Coach Gibbs' face. And was it more so just the passion of wanting to win that's missing somewhat today?
I think that's exactly what it is. I watched episode with him and Coach Gill on the sideline in Minnesota.
Exactly.
And I'm like, what the? And then when you watch Coach Gill's reaction, he said, that guy wants to win. And when a coach of that magnitude and that level understands that, Coach Gibbs was a coach that I think the reason he was so successful, he let guys be who they were. I was a crazy dude. Ray was crazy.
Exactly.
Gary, we know we're all still friends today. And he allowed you to be who you want to be. They had Darryl and Art, those guys that were more quiet and things of that nature, and he let them be who they were. But he was able to make sure he got everybody together. And Gary, when you see it, many people look at what he does and they go, oh, arrogant. No. That's passion. You want somebody on the team who believes in themselves every play. I guarantee you, ask him how many times he was covered. He'll tell you never.
Yet another honor.
I tell you what, it's to be inducted into your hometown, not next to my hometown, but the town that I played so many years in football, and being inducted into their Sports Hall of Fame means the world to me. I'm so fortunate. I wouldn't be here if it wouldn't be for Ricky Sanders, Art Monk, who made me be so competitive, especially Ricky. He made me train like no other just so I could keep up with them. The Hogs that protected our quarterbacks. Big props to Joe Thosman, Jay Schroeder, Doug Williams, and Mark Rippon for throwing me the pigskin. There's so many people that I can think that allowed me to be.
Well, Gary's a total team player. Special teams. He would have played corner if they needed him to. It's emblematic of guys. When I saw Drew Pearson go into the Hall of Fame from the Cowboys, and Drew was nice, but Gary Clark was nicer. Gary Clark's numbers blow him away. Gary Clark's production in big games blows him away. Gary Clark's production in the biggest games of the year blows everybody away. So hopefully we'll all be in Canton.
So when the committee was deciding on Gary Clark, what was the things that they said about him that said, man, this guy has to be honored?
I think the passion, what Gary represented, he still represents today. And that is his passion for burgundy and gold and winning.
One word to describe Gary Clark.
Champion.
Passionate.
Fierce.
What is the emotions today like for you?
Well,
And you were on time too.
I was on time. I made sure that, so I came here last night, so I'd make sure I'd be on time. But it's just different. I think I'm still all taking it in. I have so many people, social media, I'm getting so many congrats, and people are being so kind and so nice. After all these years, to still see that people appreciated my play, that means the world to me. I've been playing football 20, 30 years, and to be able to still have people say congrats and thank you for your play, and he was a heck of a player, it means the world to me.
For your dad today, what do you want to say to him right now about the honor that he's getting ready to receive today?
Congratulations.
Oh, beautiful piece, Donna. I mean, that was really
Good job,
moving.
Donna.
I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Wait a
nice
minute,
piece, Donna.
Donna.
Yeah, nice.
Jerry.
Can I ask-
I can't even pick with him because
Now, you know what I do? I do have one question. What took him so long? Congratulations, G.
Thank
Yeah,
We
man.
all knew it, and you
Yeah.
you deserve every bit of it. And then when you go back and look at those different teams was on, Rick, you said it best. You look in the big games, and there he
Yeah.
was.
And I have one question. I got to ask this. There were years where Gary bested Jerry Rice. He had better stats, and he was better than Jerry Rice some years. Doc, let me ask you this. You would know, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? What's going on here? Is it DC sports? We just don't get the respect? What is it?
There is something to say about the NFL in New York. Somebody in our organization, somebody pissed somebody off,
Got in somebody's
and they
weeds.
haven't gotten over it because we lose every tie. The Cowboys, and also it's about ownership.
Okay.
Jerry gets his people in.
Okay.
No matter what. And because the whole effort is constantly promoting them. I mean, you go to Dallas facility, you look on Hard Knocks, their players are postered, they're everywhere. They promote the guys who helped build it. And so that has a lot to do with it. I mean, it's and not everybody should be in. I think it's ridiculous how they lower the bar. I want you to raise the bar to Hall of Fame.
Yeah, should
I think anybody questionable should not be in. There should be no arguments. And for him to have to watch, and I'm not mad on Drew, but Drew was crying last year, begging. I mean, come on, man. I mean, the guy would do was nice, but this dude here, Gary Clark, it's a joke. Art Monk was leading, he had to wait a dime because he didn't talk to the media. So the media penalizes people that don't kiss their behind. It shouldn't be about that. You know, I think either you earned it or you didn't, and no ties. This should be overwhelming. And I think this year, a lot of people scratched their head. When I saw that young man from Pittsburgh, Shell, wait 30-some years to go in, I played against that. That was a bad boy.
Yes, he was.
Donnie Shell.
Bad. Donnie Shell was a bad man. I'm just telling you, they pick favorites. And why are we surprised?
I know.
Hell, look how they run the country.
Political.
Yeah, come on, man. You talking about why somebody ain't in somewhere? Because they don't want them in. They did something to piss somebody off. And you know, Gary was Gary. And you know they didn't like the fact that he said what was on his mind. I think all these things come back to haunt you. And we don't have a lot of political clout from this organization. I just don't think we do.
Okay.
Well, congratulations again.
Yeah, Gary.
My man.
Yeah. Congratulations, Gary.
Something to get into, Doc. I appreciate that.
You know, Gary, just tell us a little bit, just 1 second, how you feel. And we saw what you feel, but us as players, and a lot of us has never been there, it's just really rewarding to you when your team recognize what you've done for them. You live, you know, and Doc know in the NFL, once they're finished with you, they're finished with you. And it's always good when they can come back and recognize that you are the reason and part of the reason that they got those 3 trophies out front.
I mean, it was just, I mean, it's always good to be, like, because when we all have goals when we set out, from when we're young, man, our goals are all big and huge, and being inducted into the DC Sports Hall of Fame was always one of my goals. After a while, I didn't think it was going to happen, quite honestly. I brought that in with the NFL Hall of Fame. But when I finished playing, I thought there was no Hall of Fame I wouldn't be in. Quite honestly, I would be. Because my numbers were good at that time.
Exactly.
Now they're not that good, but at the time when I finished, they were good compared to what 50 catch seasons was a good season for a receiver back then.
Yeah,
I was surpassing that with 3 guys on the team, and so when I finished, I thought I'd be in. But just having my teammates show up, and quite honestly, the people that truly like the social media, that threw me off. I haven't played in 20, 30 years. That's not my thing anymore. And, have these people send out their congrats and reach out to you, private message me, all these things was just crazy. But having my teammates there along with my family, some of my family members, was just, I didn't expect it, because I'm more of a guy, not more of an emotional guy where, I'm not a tear guy.
Whoa. We wanted you to get the feeling of what we talk about behind the scenes. We're going to take Gary and wash his mouth out, but that's all right. The brother's speaking from his heart. So we ask for your apology now. See, we only got 10 seconds, and I say this, and I say it for real. Hey, man, we're proud of you.
Yeah,
man.
Us all feel good, man.
Yeah, man.
And hey, guys, we had a good show this week, but we got to come back. It's like the man that jumped off the 8-story building about the 4th floor. He said, so far, so good. And when we come back next week, let's hope that they said Washington doing okay. So far, so good. Fans, thank you for coming. We'll be back next week, but you know what we say in the minute.